What's going on, Kyle?
Not a whole lot. How about yourself, Nick?
Nothing?
I mean, we changed our set.
We did change our set.
So that's new to the people on the YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We are now facing you on the YouTubes.
You get to see our whole face instead of just
the sides
partial
of our face. Yeah.
Anyways, so I heard recently that you are a big fan of scary movies.
Considering that it is the month of October now.
That is true.
It is October, so it is spooky season. Yes, I'm a huge fan of scary movies, Nick.
Do you want to know what my favorite scary movie is?
Enlighten me.
It's The Blob.
It's a good one, don't get me wrong, but it's an oldie. It's a classic.
It is a classic. It is a classic. And you were just recently telling me something about something in the ocean that has to do with the blob.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, going around on the coast of Alaska, Canada, and America, there's a warm pocket of water going around, and you can imagine a blob. Like one of our past episodes, we talked about that little creature, the little blob, the blobfish.
The deep sea.
Now imagine the blobfish a bajillion times larger and floating around the ocean of warm water. It's a warm water pocket, and obviously water's ebb and flow. It's fluid. So a blob is always ever changing and moving in its fluid state. That's a warm pocket of water that's just flowing around on the coast of Alaska, Canada, and I think it touches kind of into down the United States.
Yeah, just a little bit in like northern United States, I think. It was like 2.5 degrees Celsius warmer than the rest of the water?
Yeah, which...
that's a pretty big jump for that much water. It was 1/3 the size of the United States.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can imagine, that's...
Continental United States.
Continental United States, yes. That is a large amount of water.
It's a huge amount of water. Can't even talk today. Sorry, I'm just so excited.
You're sounding like the blob.
It's got blob in the mouth, man. It's that, you said it's only what, 2 point what degrees?
2.5.
2.5 degrees C warmer. Now,
Yes.
to us, 2.5 degrees C is not a huge amount like to the person, but imagine the temperature of the water up in Alaska and up in northern where it's supposed to be a cold water environment to the point where it's basically almost like coastal southern island style water.
Well, yeah, I think the thing with the ocean you have to remember is that it's notorious for being stable. And when you think about water, it's very stable as far as temperature goes because there's so much of it. It's able to maintain a temperature that is very
constant,
rarely changing.
Yeah.
It really doesn't change that much. So when you're talking about organisms that thrive in that type of environment, when you're messing with 1 to 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, you really start to mess with things. I mean, that's like, I don't know, 20 to 30 degrees for us.
Yeah.
Like in room temperature wise, like it's going from like 70 to 90 if it was for us.
Which
like it's a big change. Like it's something that I think it's when you say 2 to 5 or 2.5 degrees Celsius, I don't think it has that big of an impact, but you need to realize that these organisms are not used to water changing temperature at all.
I think the easiest way, I think I kind of made a reference to it, is like you take these cold water creatures of whales, birds and fish that are used to these extremely cold, almost, Arctic temperatures at times, waters, and you take them and put them in basically in Hawaii and say, here's your new home.
Yeah.
That's taking someone who's lived in Phoenix, Arizona their whole life and then going like, oh, here's the Arctic Circle, man.
Have fun. Have fun up
without
there.
any protection. That's what's going on.
Oh, you didn't bring a jacket? Oh, bummer, man.
Yeah, sorry. This sucks.
Really should have planned ahead. You really should have.
Well, it's crazy though too, is like that amount of change can affect it that quickly. And I heard something recently and someone was just making a quick little quote, and it was like, if all the insects in the world were to disappear, almost everything would come to a crippling halt, right? But if you remove all the humans from the world, everything would flourish. And to me, that's just like, it's such a crazy thing to think about, is that one little phrase. And it's like, it's totally true. Think about it. What do humans provide to the earth that the earth can't go without?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Almost nothing.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
So when I hear about these small little minute changes like that are having that crazy amount of impact in a water temperature and killing off, what was it, 28 humpback whales and 17
finback whales. Yeah, the whales were a big one.
28 humpback whales.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Humpback whales, dude. 28 of those things were washed up on the shores of Alaska. Like, that's what's insane about that right there, is like that amount of temperature change having that impact. And then going back to saying like just getting rid of humans, and it's all of a sudden everything flourishes.
Well, and not only was it the whales either. I mean, there was also the fish. They were looking at the cod fisheries, I think it was, and it dropped 70 or 80%, I believe.
70, yeah. And it was like
in the course of like 2 years. I mean, that's like $100 million industry or something like that. That's a big industry as far as fisheries go. And
it's sad that that's the way that we had to look at it, was like a money factor of like these fish. Like we looked at these fish as like a profit, right?
Well,
like,
yeah.
And that's a measurable, is the profit that it took in, not so much of the actual ecological damage that it had.
Well, I think it was part ecological damage, but I think our only way of measuring it really is with
profit,
what it affects. I mean, we're not out there counting stuff that doesn't affect us, unfortunately.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, that was another one. It even affected seabirds, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seabirds. So the way it all went down, to my understanding, was the water got so warm, and it caused an algae bloom, which was a danger to them, and it was a toxic algae. Mm-hmm. And we actually get some of that down here in California. We have when a lot of people like to see these beaches and the waves with the bioluminescence and stuff like that, but in essence, it's dangerous. Like it's an actual.
It is a toxic algae. Yeah,
it's a toxic algae, and it's not just dangerous to us. It just killed off hundreds of thousands of birds and fish, and
yeah. So when you get that water temperature warming, it all of a sudden provides an environment for organisms to thrive that have not normally thrived there. So when you get algae blooming like that, it's because there's a high level of nutrients, and now it has the perfect environment to flourish. So that high level of nutrients is able to allow that algae to just go nuts, basically. And what that affects is the food chain. It doesn't necessarily affect the birds flying in the air above it. It affects the food that the birds eat, which is the fish. Kills off the fish then get eaten by the birds, and that affects the birds.
Right. It's a whole chain of events.
It's a whole chain of events that in fact affect birds, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a full round robin, and that's the whole world that we're looking at today. Is like, it's just this one little pocket here, and it's a lot of things that we can compare that to. It's so hard to see that change in the ocean, and it's just so blobbity. I don't know.
Blobbity.
The whole word. I don't even know who came up with the name the blob. It was a scientist, right? And he's just like, all of a sudden comes up and he's like, that looks like a blob, right?
Yeah, Nick Bond, I believe was his name.
Of course, it was a freaking Nick that came up with the blob.
Yeah, you're welcome. Nicks are brilliant. Okay.
It's just there's so many things in the ocean that it's just so big that it collects all this negativity.
Yeah. Yeah. And as of 2018, I believe this one specifically off the coast here has started to dissipate.
Yeah.
However, this circumstance, this thing that's been happening with these warm water areas is constantly happening. Yeah. And we're noticing it around coral reefs. We're noticing it basically all around the world. And I was reading that basically the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah, of course.
So this one dissipated in 5 years. As time goes on, that'll take them longer and longer to dissipate.
Yeah.
Is basically what it was saying, which in the terms of killing 28 humpback whales is not
that's going to be a fraction.
Not a good thing.
No, I mean, at that point, if it keeps on going and it keeps increasing and popping up all over the world, I mean, it won't just be humpbacks. It's going to be pretty much every marine mammal that we can think of, even just every marine life.
Yeah.
So it's this whole global warming thing it's such a topic that we always constantly touch on here, and it's
hard not to. I mean, everything that we talk about is ocean related, and unfortunately, global warming or the change in the climate has literally every impact on the ocean. It's one of the biggest impacted things is the ocean. And we rely on the ocean way more than what we think.
We rely on the ocean, way more than we think. And I think we also rely on it way more than we should, in essence, I think. I think, okay, maybe I recant that a little bit and maybe move it into different areas. Is like, we can have so many more sustainable food sources and anything like that. And we can also, there's a lot of things that we pull from the ocean and grow in the ocean and use from the ocean that we can find other uses from in other sources and other resources around the world that might be on land or recycling.
So we rely on the natural resources of the ocean too much.
Yeah.
We need to rely more on the farmable or the unnatural, quote unquote, research or supplies that we can get from the ocean.
It's a tough little area right there, but I think we're sending out way too much into the ocean than, sorry,
we're taking too much out than we're putting in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As far as and especially an effort too. I mean,
right.
Like our past few episodes, it's like you get these small groups of people that are so interested in it. And then it's not a big interest to, huge groups of people or governments. And it's just that's what's unfortunate about it.
Right. Speaking of planet changing, global warming type stuff, did you see California is getting rid of gas powered cars?
No,
by 2035, yeah.
2035. Oh god.
2035 I think was the end date.
Years from now?
And there's not going to be any more gas powered cars in California, or at least that's the plan
that's
was
the
put
plan,
in place.
Yeah. I mean, I know we just had that recent one pass where it's going to be in a couple of years where we actually are limited on how much water we can use in this state. Yeah.
Oh,
so
great.
I think it was like something like 55 gallons or 50 gallons per household, like not just like person or anything like that, per household that they can use. I think it was in a given day.
I guess you can't drink a gallon of water anymore. Dude.
That gallon challenge is gone.
But that's crazy though. 55 gallons?
Yeah,
that's like nothing.
You literally can't do a load of laundry anymore.
Huh.
But it's so, we talk about this all the time. Is I try to find both sides of it. Being the historian that I am, is I'm constantly looking for every angle and trying to find a different source from it.
Right.
If we look at the R negative, like, oh no, we can't do as much laundry, or oh no, my gas powered car, or like, I might not have the car that I have right now in a couple of years, right? We have to look at the positivity of that. Is if we move to full electric, yeah, that's a car that's full electric, but you always see kind of those pictures of the car plugged into the wall, and then in the background, it's like this big coal factory going up and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's one of the big things that I had concerns of basically when I read that at first. It's like, okay, so now everybody has electric powered cars, but we still don't all have solar panels.
Yeah.
Don't you think it should be the other way around, where we all get solar panels, we're all working on renewable energy?
Yeah.
And then using that energy?
Yeah.
It seems like we're going the opposite way. It seems like we're using the energy first that we don't have, or we do have, but we're not having it in reliable ways.
Yeah, because I know even to this day, like there's solar farms in California, especially when you drive down here. If you're driving like into Bishop, like it's just before the 395. There's huge solar farms.
Yeah.
But you try to research what those are going into, and it's almost like it's not going into like the easiest things that it could be. And like you said, we should all have solar panels before we then invest in, electric cars, because I know your parents' house has solar on it. And are they doing the reverse where they can actually sell it back, or how's that work?
I don't know if they hit that level exactly, because I know they were limited on how many panels they could have. So I don't know if they actually hit the threshold of being reversed. But yes, they did get solar panels, and yes, they do work.
And it makes a huge
impact.
And
yes, it did lower their electrical bill a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have a big family, so it's easy enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so the positive side is we're producing a lot less immediate CO2 emissions, but then it always comes down to is like you have these huge lithium ion batteries, and this is always the argument you hear with.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah, I think episode 1.
Was it episode 1?
Yeah, something like that. And it's we talk about those lithium batteries, but I just can't imagine 20, 35, 15 years from now, everyone having an electric car.
Seems right.
Where's all that power going to come from?
I don't know.
It's not renewable. It can't be. Like,
I mean, it has to be. Otherwise, we're just going backwards.
It's the crazy part to me, though, is how many motorists there are in California to be all on electric.
Yeah, There's a lot. Well, and then you also have to figure out, too, like, what about people that are just traveling through California?
Yeah, what is
that? Is it just a residency type thing? Like, if you live here, you have to have an electric car? I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean, we'll have to figure it out eventually, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to wait until 2035.
I mean, there's a lot of car companies who need to start jumping on the electric vehicle train.
And I think I've been seeing a lot more of it. I don't think there is. I can't off the top. And I love cars. I can't think of a single car company that doesn't have either a hybrid or a full electric at this point. I really can't think of anything.
Really?
Yeah. No. Everyone pretty much has. Yeah, of course. And actually, from my past in selling cars, there was actually a clause, and I remember hearing about this because I was selling cars, is I'm pretty sure every brand had to have either a hybrid or an electric in their fleet sold in California to remain either in sales or like have a certain amount of cars eligible to sell in the state.
Interesting.
Because that's why Fiat, we introduced the 500e, which is the electric.
Right.
Nissan at the time had the E, and now we've got the Chevy Volt and stuff like that. So
interesting.
So California is definitely on a huge forefront of sustainable pushing
sustainable for vehicles, at least.
Yeah, for pushing for an environmental change, which is huge.
I mean, I think it's a big step just saying that in the first place, saying in 15 years we're going to have all electric cars. Like, even if it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
still that push and that drive to get to that point is there.
We're knocking on the door.
We just have to figure out how to get there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's so hard because we've had so many setbacks as a human race and like what our, environmental impact is. And it's going to be such a long and painful road, but it's good to see that it's already happening. Like you said, we're knocking on that door. Like we're getting in the realm of getting it to happen. So it's just a constant game that we need to keep vigilant and keep in the forefront of our brains into that white matter.
Into the white matter.
Yeah. Into your frontal lobes, man.
No, it's true. It's something that we all need to kind of start pushing for. And even if we have set dates, it's like, we can't just wait around until 2035 and then be like, oh yeah.
No, because I mean,
I forgot about that.
And that's the hard part is like, we literally, we're learning about the Blob and stuff like this. And we look back at the Blob, that was 2013 that started.
Yeah.
And we didn't notice the effects of it until 2015. Mm-hmm. And now it's 2020 where we're finally like, whoa, like we're just now learning about this. And you studied this. Like this is not the Blob specifically.
I don't study,
or global warming, but like you're still a bio major, which is still a huge thing. Like that's when you study. I feel like anyway, I've only taken like 2 bio classes in college because that was like my requirement. But it's it's a common thing. Like I mean, not a common, but it's like a core factor is global warming or environmental effects and change. Right? It's a
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think it's touched on enough, to be honest. I think there's much more information that could have been studied. I mean, I took 5 years of classes and really not that many of them had to do with environmental. I mean, it would get touched on here and there, but to be honest, I can't really even think of one full class that was spent on
just
environmental issues.
But if you go back to and think of it now, would you have this whole Blob incident and the information surrounding it, like we already know how interested we were in it just by learning about it in this short amount of time. Would you in school, would that have been like, holy crap, this is like...
Definitely. I think, well, I also was in biology instead of environmental science. I don't know if environmental science maybe touched on it more than biology, because I know that is a little bit more directed in this field of thinking. Definitely. So maybe it was touched on there. But yeah, definitely. I would definitely be interested in it. I think that's something that we need to be learning about in school. I mean, whether it's elementary school or middle school or high school or college, it's something that needs to be touched on somewhere along the line, because we have kids that are going to school who need to learn about this stuff.
And at this point in time, school is at their fingertips. So it's everything as far as school goes. I'm sorry, I just bit my lip and it hurts so bad. School, everything, all their knowledge and everything is right at their fingertips, right? Everyone is in school on a computer right now in Zoom. Mm-hmm. So there's no question about it. And it's even at your level, like I just asked you, is when I referred to like, would you want to learn about in school, is at the college level where they have every resource to learn about that. College professors have free reign basically of what they can teach. Yeah. So that should have been like a huge factor. Like that's...
Yeah. And like I said, I learned more of the technical stuff when it comes to biology. They could have done more in environmental science, because I know that is more having to do with the environment. Yeah. But I mean, even as a biology major, I feel like we should have touched on it more, because it has such a big impact on all those technical things that we learned.
Right.
It should be something that we focused on at least for a little bit. I don't know.
Because I mean, they're teaching you as far as the technical side, the chemical side, and the makeup side of basically how to do that job. Right. I mean, like you have to know the technical side of that to then support that part, right?
Right.
Because it seems like it's a small subject as far as environmental science, but it's like you have to have the bio major to start it, or the bio background to understand it, right? To get a full grasp of it anyways, the way I would probably see it. Like, I don't know, when I think of anthropology and the study of people, as far as like my history side is like, I would want to study history before I study people individually, as far as like getting a much broader background and understanding of how things might actually function in a more broader scale, and then narrow it down, right? Like,
I had a question for you about that. So you know how, so you know how at least in biology, there's always there's a population curve, right?
Right.
So you have animals who have a food source, and they'll grow until they hit the point where
it's too much.
There's too many animals for the food source, and then they'll go past that line. And they will all the time. They'll go past it,
right?
And then they'll turn around and they'll start dying off, and then they'll find that groove. They'll kind of ride that line,
right?
Do you think humans have hit that line? How close? Because I know. So the issue with us is that we can manipulate that line. We can take that line and we can move it up and up and up and up.
And I think that might
to go with us, but
I think that might be the problem, is the fact that we're able to find ways around that line, right? We're basically at this point taking nature out of it and putting too much of like putting too much thought into it. You know, it's almost. And yes, I believe we can hit that threshold and soar past it because, oh man, we are really on that fine line as far as humans go. And I actually just had this conversation with another friend of mine the other day. And it's like, you know, I think they're asking like, are you going to have kids? Are you going to adopt or anything like that? And it's like, I don't know, because it's like, there's so many people coming to the earth every day. And yes, I think we can soar past that threshold. So, and I think the problem is that as far as technology goes and as far as the human race and kind and people and organization that the people are, we can find a ways around that threshold and keep increasing it, like you said.
Right.
I think that's the problem.
So
I don't think there needs to be like a government mandated, like you can only have this many kids.
I don't think we would. I mean, who knows? We could hit that point at some point. But
yeah.
So before science and kind of technology started to take off, you know, was there kind of a population limit? Did they?
So the way populations and everything like that is like measured comes down to their production level, their basically like a country or a human income and stuff like that. But the main thing really is like the source of food and like their cleanliness and all that kind of stuff. It comes down to all like a huge like graph of things to come together. And that's, it's a really, I don't study anthropology, right? But I study history.
Right.
And I have yet to come to obviously a point where it's like, there's too many humans, right?
Yeah.
I hope I don't ever have to see that.
Well, and I know previously too, you would have populations of humans moving locations because they ran out of supplies in that one location.
Exactly.
Right?
They would, we hear about it in like sci-fi movies all the time. They terraform and then they use up all the resources and they move on.
Right.
I hope that Earth never gets to that point, but I mean, the fact that we're already looking at Mars for other places, it's unfortunate. But yes, I mean, there is that fact, and you know, there's agricultural turning. You hear of fields where they're like, we can't use that field for a couple of years because it's out of nutrients.
Right.
But yes, I mean, there is a point where humans can't produce enough to maintain their own levels, and it'll hit that and it'll level off and it'll start to fall. I think that's just common knowledge. As far as you asking me on my history side, you know, we've never seen that as far as in a huge mass level. The unfortunate side that we've seen is like, you know, environmental causes, or, you know, famine, disease.
Yeah, I was just going to say disease is probably a big factor.
Disease is a huge one.
Because I know even in biological, even in animal populations, you get that if your population gets too big, they're too close together, there's going to be some sort of disease that wipes out the population, and then it starts over, and then it starts growing again.
I think the way we can look at that too already is like we're seeing that in, you know, salmon species. I mean, they're knocking out salmon species and reproducing them in farms, and it's these fish are so mangled and so, you know, inbred basically to the point where disease is so rampant. You know, deformities are so rampant that it's not even worth it to those fish to be sold or to be released back into the environment. They're basically just a number at that point.
They're just food.
Yeah, it's just, that's all it is. And we've stripped so much of that natural resource that we're now, again, this comes back to the humans trying to put back and trying to
it comes back to the humans manipulating nature.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that way with anything. Look at household pets, you know, look at dogs. You couldn't take a household dog nowadays and put them back into the wild.
No, not at all.
And have this dog just be in the wild. Like, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't work. But yeah, it's that way with anything. Just the genetic modifications on animals it's great in the fact that it allows us to produce our own food and not have to take it from nature. But at the same point, how much is too much? Like how far can we push the limits of nature until we hit a point where we can't go back, you know? And it's weird to think about.
2013, it started that Blob. Like,
Yeah.
You don't, we push the ocean to its breaking point, and now you're literally seeing hints of it happening, of like ocean warming, of these blobs going around, right? And still people are like, it took us to 2020, 7 years later for us to find out about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a news article back then as well, but as far as
even NASA reported, there was a NASA.gov articles on this, and it literally got put to the wayside. I think.
I mean, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that just goes to show you that most people probably didn't see about it.
Yeah.
If you did, let us know.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious to see if people knew about this or knew of the Blob.
Yeah. We would love to know if you guys have heard about that, because, we didn't. And it was like, but it was super informative and super enjoyable to learn about. Unfortunately, as a negative enjoyable for us, I guess you could call it. Like, but it's just another piece to the puzzle that everyone's trying to put, the whole world's trying to put together, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least some of us. There's people out there that could give a care less about this, They don't think it's real.
Yeah, unfortunately there is.
And we literally just spent the past 20, 30 minutes talking about a whole literally recorded year over year. I mean, these guys probably have hundreds of pages of data and websites, sure. and people are still just like, no, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a thing. Sorry.
Yeah, that happens.
Changing subjects to kind of close things out here. What are you going to be for Halloween?
Ooh, I don't know. I always have a mustache. Last year I was at your house and I was like the Freddie Mercury.
Yeah,
cop
that was a
kind
good
of
one.
Thing.
That was a good one.
I don't know. I mean, Halloween's kind of like postponed.
I know.
It's kind of sad.
Halloween, I know, it is sad.
Halloween's my ultimate favorite time of year altogether. So I don't know. What are you going to be? What are you going to do?
I don't know. That's what I was going to see what you were going to do.
Can we do like a dual costume?
We could do a dual costume.
Yeah.
Couples costume.
That'd be pretty fun.
We need ideas. Give us ideas. Some ideas.
Throw down in the comments on YouTube.
Yes.
Give us some comments on Instagram, Facebook about what we should be for Halloween. And of course, keep sending us ideas, topics, everything like that. Let us know if you've heard about the Blob too. I mean, we want more information on that too. I mean, we've been studying for a couple of days, but it's like, we want more information on that. So yeah. And we hope you guys liked our guests last episode. Those are going to keep coming. We have another really sweet guest coming up here this month. So be on the lookout for that, guys.
Yeah, we're pretty much going to do every other episode is going to be a guest episode.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that for a second. I think we're going to try one episode being us, and then the next one's going to be a guest. I mean, we've got it pretty lined up. I mean, it worked out pretty sweet. It was fun having Steve on here.
It was very informative. Like
I was gonna say the same thing.
Well,
Get out of man.
It's weird because it's like we've known him for so long, we know so much about him, but at the same point, it's like we never really hear him talk about it in that manner,
in that context.
Yeah, in that context. No, So it was really cool hearing him talk about how he was teaching the kids and stuff, and how his experiences were impacting them. Yeah, that was really cool. It was really cool to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And we love to hear about that too. So share your guys' experience with us. That's what the Kelp Bed's about.
Yep.
We want to like and share. So all that stuff.
Exactly. And with that, I think we will see you guys in 2 weeks. See you guys.
See you.